Can you define queer joy in 5 words or less?
Ooh.
I can give you extra words.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Up to 10.
Feeling free to be yourself. I'm Ellie Kim, she, her, hers pronouns. I'm from Chicago, Illinois. I'm 34 years old, and I'm a proud genderfluid trans woman. I got started in music when I was about 8. First I started on piano like most people. My parents forced me. I hated it. Eventually my parents let me quit, and then I started playing guitar because some friends at school got guitars, and so I just to fit in I got a guitar too. Or my mom had a guitar, so they didn't have to buy me one. I just fell in love with it. I mean, I probably from the day I started playing guitar for the next decade, 10 years, I don't think I stopped playing guitar. I played every day. I took it with me everywhere I went, on trips to school. I played constantly. And yeah, it was just a nice escape from where I was living at the time. I always wanted to be a musician when I was a kid, ever since I was little. But definitely a combination of things, probably internalized racism growing up, and just like most people, Asian American people, I didn't see a ton of Asian American musicians in the mainstream. They existed, but they just weren't as visible. And so I just didn't really, I had trouble imagining a future for myself in music. That, and also obviously I had immigrant parents who did not want me to do music in any way, shape, or form. And then also in college, I realized that I was trans and I was going to come out and transition, and I still had a lot of internalized transphobia. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to have this really difficult life. I'm not going to be completely unemployable. And if I was a struggling musician on top of that, it'd just be too much. So I was like, I should do something safer where I can not be homeless and be the typical trans woman story. So all that, parent pressure, internalized transphobia, internalized racism. By the end of music school, I just was like, whatever, I'll just do the typical path. And I applied to medical school. And I told my parents that having an arts degree would help me get into medical school. That's why they didn't give me fuss over doing music, which has actually ended up being true, ironically. I applied. I went to Northwestern in Chicago. After a year or two, I transitioned when I got there. And after a year or two, I realized it was a huge decision. I did not want to be a doctor. I didn't like medicine. I went back to playing music. I kind of dropped out for a year and a half, almost 2 years, and I just worked a day job. And that's when I started SuperKnova. And I started writing songs for myself. Originally, I was just writing songs for myself just to process my emotions around transitioning. At that point, I was like, okay, I definitely want to go back and do music. I was gonna just completely drop out of medical school completely, but I'd done 3 of the 4 years already, and I was already in all this debt. So I was like, I might as well finish the last year. So I went back and finished the last year, graduated. So I technically have an MD. I'm technically a doctor, but I didn't do residency. So I'm not I don't have a license or anything. And so I graduated, I just went straight back to working a day job and doing music. So I'm kind of a lot of the typical trans story of I kind of knew from when I was younger, as early as 4 or 5 years old. But where I grew up, definitely I didn't know any trans people, or at least not any openly trans people. And so I didn't really hear the word trans till I went to college, basically. So it was just something that I grew up thinking was this, this deep dark secret, or this flaw in me for a long time. Even though when I was a kid, I liked a lot of the stereotypical feminine things, I wanted to wear dresses and wear makeup and play with Barbies and stuff like this. Not to say that makes you trans, obviously, but some of the early signs were there. When I went to college, I started hearing about trans people, and I saw Laverne Cox and all these people, and heard about it. And I took a gender women's studies class, and I was like, oh, this makes a lot of sense now. And so yeah, and then I came out after I graduated, a year or two after that. Yeah, I used music definitely when I was coming out and transitioning to help process my emotions. It was definitely 2 things. One, inherently just writing about things or making art about something is pretty therapeutic. And then also I think the beautiful thing about music and art is that for whatever reason our society kind of gives more free license for artists to just be weird and wild and break rules and break convention. And so in a sense SuperKnova kind of helped me come out, because I could be comfortable being on a stage being queer more so than I could even in real life. And so that definitely helped me a lot. Yeah, I came out to my parents when I was 27. They didn't take it great. They weren't the worst. They didn't like, tell me I'm going to hell or like disown me or anything, but they clearly like didn't really accept me. Like they didn't really use pronouns or name. My mom was a little better, but my dad like kind of just acted like I'd never came out. Like it was just like he just like blocked it out and just like, so it was kind of tough because I was like, it felt like they didn't reject me, but essentially they were still rejecting me without saying it. And so eventually, I'm someone who's like, you're not going to reject me for being trans. I'm going to reject you for being transphobic. And so I was at a point where in my life, like definitely the work I had to do to come out as trans and be comfortable with who I am, like if you don't accept me and love me for who I am, you don't deserve to be in my life. I haven't spoken to them in 7 years. And I think my life is definitely better overall for it. I think the thing I've come to with therapy is like, I'll always have a little bit of guilt, like separating myself from them because, like the whole immigrant thing, they worked hard for me and this and that. But the guilt I feel is less than the pain I felt being rejected and being disrespected by them regularly. My relationship with the Korean American community is good because I hang out with a portion of the Korean American community who accepts me. So all the Korean American people I have in my life now are like queer identified or like very liberal. So I think like any population, they're a huge group. I don't really see any connection to my parents. They don't represent Korean Americans. And I know there's plenty of trans queer Americans or Korean Americans and Koreans in Korea who are just like fighting for their rights and are just living their lives just like I am. I definitely connect most to queer Koreans, and I'm definitely proud to be Korean American. I think that was another thing also when I first started coming out, was I went to a lot of support groups that were mostly white, and there was definitely a disconnect, and like I didn't understand why I didn't totally fit in there. And it wasn't until I started going to more Asian queer groups I was like, oh, this makes a lot more sense. There's like a lot more unique experiences amongst queer Asians than there is just amongst like white queer people. I've definitely found that in a queer Korean American community. I had to like really let go of like what other people thought of me, because like still to this day, I mean it's gotten better, but like probably still like the majority of the world still thinks that like the core of who I am and how I live my life is just like either wrong or just like flat out insane. After I kind of got over that, where I'm like, okay, I already live a life that's so outside what people think is normal or okay. Why would I give a shit about anything else anyone thinks about decisions I make about my life? And so that definitely made it, the gift of coming out was like, it made other things in my life easier. Like people thought it was obviously insane when I dropped out of medical school. They're like, oh, all this work, all this debt. I'm like, well, why would I give a shit what you think? Like, I want to do this. I know I want this, so I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? It makes things easier in that sense. Same for the relationships too, like if someone's toxic in my life, I cut them out, So, yeah. I find joy just being myself, living my life how I want to live it, making queer music, making friends, and having relationships with queer people. At its core, queer joy is just feeling free to be your full self. That could be just wearing clothes that make you feel good. It's making out, like queer makeouts in a dark club. It's making a queer-ass music video. It's, dressing non-gender normatively. It's, gay sex. It's all of those things. It's just whatever makes you feel good that doesn't fit into cis heteronormativity. All of us are like constantly searching for what queerness means to us and redefining it at like every year of our lives. And definitely for me, it was like so many different outfits, hairstyles, hair colors, nail colors, just trying different stuff and seeing what feels right. Because, like a lot of us, sometimes feel the need, especially when you first transition, especially if you're more binary identifying, like me, like as a trans woman, you're like, okay, I've like had to do all this like traditionally masculine stuff, like you shift to the feminine, and then you're like, wait, but I don't need to do that, as like no one of that gender has to do that, and you try different stuff out. And I think that's probably usually the way it manifests, is like clothes, hair, and like styles and stuff like that. I definitely think SuperKnova is a little bit of an alter ego, but also is also very much myself. It's not completely separate. The confidence I have on stage and being able to be an artist and be myself definitely helped me, Ellie Kim, to come out and be more confident in who I was as a person also. I imagine for myself, for the future, that I'll continue to keep doing music. I'll continue to be able to connect with other people and inspire people and be inspired by other queer people and other people in the world. And continue just to work towards finding joy and happiness in life. I think the world's just gonna get gayer and better, and I think that each generation forward just like propels forward like our idea of social change and what world can be and what a life can be and what happiness can be. I think there was like a question on that list when I saw it was like, what is your advice for the next generation? I'm like, don't listen to me. I'm like, my advice is useless. Like, the whole point is the generation comes with new ideas that we couldn't think of, and they're gonna have so much better ideas than anything I could come up with. And so I'm just excited for Gen Z and for Gen A to just like come up with better ideas and make the world better.